Bird's Bees keeps your lips smooth. This podcast you're about to listen to, it has horribly offensive language, crude humor, and countless spoilers for things we guarantee haven't spoiled for you yet. No, it doesn't spoil things. Bird's Bees, that delicious lip balm. Oh, sorry, I got sidetracked there. Listener discretion is advised. If you're listening to this in a public place without headphones, you should probably use them. You should probably use some Bird's Bees brand headphones. This podcast isn't safe for anywhere, so you should probably stop right now. Get some Bird's Bees. Your lips are so dry. Bird's Bees will make your lips so moist. Kissably moist. Just come up and kiss you. Your moist lips. Sorry, got sidetracked there again. I just couldn't stop thinking about kissing everything I see. If you want to skip to a specific section of the show, the episode description, it's got like timestamps. You can use those. Now, sit back and relax and listen to two fat guys talk about smooth lips.
I hate you so fucking much.
This is Dave. That's
right.
Carlos. So far we've watched 5... We've been recording today for 5 of the Anime Rave fall season episodes.
And now we're taking a break.
Watched a couple Senran and Kagura episodes
by
to
talking to you.
Detox, and now I gotta spend about an hour talking with this dipshit.
Alright. Well, let's get right to it. This is Two Fat Guys Talk, episode 57. What's the title of this one?
Do we actually have a title?
Yeah, we have a title.
Oh, we do we?
It's, Shitlord? Carlos is the shittiest of all lords.
That's every episode.
Yes, indeed. Alright, let's catch up. Dave, I fucking hate you. What have you been up to?
Well, finding more and more episodes to torture you with. Coming up with plans to torture you. Somehow, eventually I'm going to drop the question about doing this every season.
No, it's not happening. We'll do this season, and then never again.
Even I've got to agree. But what have I been doing? Playing Diablo 3.
Ultimate Evil Edition on PS4.
On PS4.
It gets patched. They've already added so much stuff. It's nice.
Yes, they have. I've actually restarted, or rather, started from where I left off in Ni no Kuni. I'm gonna see if I can finish that game, because it was a decent game, just other things came along. Outside of that, there's Borderlands the pre-sequel.
Great title.
Goes live tonight, so I'll be playing that.
Excellent title. Me, I've been playing... sorry, you were done?
How about you?
I didn't... If you're not done, by all means.
No, that's what I meant. How about you?
Oh, yeah, how about me? Good job. Been playing Diablo 3 Ultimate Evil Edition, killing the nemesises you produce when you get your ass killed all the time.
I never see yours. Ever.
It's because I don't die as much as you. I've been reading a book called Bad Feminist. It's essays about feminism and kind of its good and bad sides and what leads someone down that road, the life experiences of someone who has gone down that road. And it's actually a very good read. The essays cover everything from Scrabble tournaments to the Sweet Valley High obsession this particular author had, despite knowing it was terrible. It's quite a good read, and I've been enjoying reading it. I've also been practicing for the upcoming Canada Cup. I entered Street Fighter 4, Ultra Street Fighter 4 specifically, and Under Night in Birth EXE Late, plus our Alpha Championship Edition Turbo. There's probably going to be a side Smash for DS tournament. I've been playing Smash on 3DS. It is a fine portable Smash game. You still have to unlock characters, which is stupid as shit. But otherwise, having a blast with that game.
No Skullgirls or Persona?
I do have Persona 4 Ultimax ready whenever I want to play it. I haven't touched it yet. I have a Wii U I have to set up. I haven't unboxed yet. And I haven't played Skullgirls in a while, but I've been following the development of Beowulf, who I am wearing a shirt of as we speak.
But no tournaments?
No, not yet. Maybe there will be a side one at Canada Cup. Who's to say? I should probably play online more often, but there are only so many hours in the day. And that's me. So let's not waste time. Let's get right into Too Fat, Too Furious, the topics section. And I guess we'll get started with the first one on the list, which I put on there. Let's talk about genre. Specifically, things like... Oh, what the fuck did I write there? Subgenres, how we have this incredibly silly human desire to just not subsidize, but build walls around everything. We want there to be genres to our stories, to our games, to everything. We want there to be definable genres. Something is sci-fi, something is fantasy, something is drama, something is romantic comedy. In games, we want to make a distinction between 2D action platformer and third-person action shooter. Sure, no T. We don't need T's in this podcast. I personally feel, we've discussed this before, that people go too far in categorizing out genres. That, in the example of, say, Mega Man X8 versus Gears of War 3, they really belong to the same genre. They are both action games where you primarily shoot shit. That one features more of an emphasis on platforming, and the other features more of an emphasis on cover shooting. Doesn't necessarily make them separate genres, and trying to make a genre for 2D action platformer versus third-person action shooter, cover-based shooter, we're getting a little too stupid with our genre classifications.
I think you're being silly.
Very well. This is good. It's good to have dissent. Elaborate.
Well, you stink and cut topic over. Not really.
I do not. I showered.
No, I do think that you're actually playing with the genre card by saying, oh, well, they're action games. Guess what? You look at those two games, one's a platformer, side-scrolling platformer, one's a motherfucking shooter.
The first one is a shooter, too.
No, it's not.
Sure it is.
Shooter is...
Shooting is your primary means of attacking things in Mega Man X8.
Hang on. No. No.
You are not Angry Joe.
Stop. Don't need to be Angry Joe to do that. Stop. Genres have maybe gone a little bit too far in how we've added them to everything. A game is a third-person shooter / RPG / strategy simulation. No. Gears of War is a third-person shooter. Just because you fire a gun does not make it a shooter. A shooter is now classified as a first or a third-person view where the primary thing is shooting the gun in that view. Mega Man is not a shooter.
I can't believe this is your argument. The view makes it a shooter or not? The only thing you do in Mega Man is shoot things. And jump.
Yes, the shooting is the part of the mechanic of the game.
Yes.
But
like Gears of War.
It's how the genres have grown to go to different areas. You may want to call everything that shoots a gun a shooter.
I don't want to call everything
But a shooter is defined by games like Halo, games like Gears of War, Half-Life. Those are Doom. Those are considered shooters. That is the genre.
Your argument is about what people consider. What people consider doesn't amount to a sack of shit.
In today's day, how things grow from one place to another, yes, it does.
It really doesn't. If the entire mechanic of a game, if how you defeat the enemies in a game is shooting them, a game is a shooter. You can argue that it's not, but then you play it and you spend 90% of your time shooting, jumping while shooting, sliding while shooting, figuring out patterns while shooting, and just shooting in general. You're like, yeah, this isn't a shooter because of the view.
Okay.
So it were the parts in Mega Man X7 that were 3D shooters, but the parts where they were on rails 2D. Oh, it was awful. Don't get me wrong, but were they shooters? And did it become not a shooter when you couldn't move in three-dimensional space?
I do think you have to... I'll give you that. Okay, fine. At the very core of the definition, okay, it's a shooter. But we created these genres and these kind of borders so we could categorize and therefore look for games that are like these games. When I go looking for a Mega Man style or a Castlevania style game, I don't go looking for a motherfucking shooter. I go looking for a Metroidvania or a 2D platforming game. I don't go looking for shooters.
But even there, you just said a Metroidvania or a 2D platformer. A Metroidvania is kind of a 2D platformer.
Well, it is, but...
So you just mentioned the subgenre in that category.
Metroidvania is what we've come up with as a classification for those style of games. But if Steam, as bad as their fucking tagging system is stupid, even there, they put Metroidvania. If you wanted to get right down to the proper terms, they're 2D platformers. So depending on how the site itself classifies things and draws a hard line on what it can or cannot be, these help us look for games of the same idea.
I'll give you that, yes, there's supposed to be a helpful nature to genre, but you said there's a proper term for them. I argue there is no proper term. That, not unlike reviews, genre classification is very subjective.
Yes, and that's a problem.
I've argued that Star Wars isn't sci-fi before, because I argue that it has way more in common with fantasy than with sci-fi. But the issue is, science fiction does also have an element of the fantastical. It is still speculative fiction. By definition, it is speculative fiction. You are speculating and you are writing fiction about it. Fantasy falls under the same umbrella. So if someone was to argue with me that Star Wars is sci-fi to them, I'm not sure I could argue against that. It's not an objective thing.
You successfully argued with me on it.
Sure, but the thing there is that, I'd say it fits fantasy more. I haven't changed my mind there. What I'm saying is, if someone doesn't feel it's sci-fi and they can or doesn't feel it's fantasy and they can bring up good reasons, I'd say it's worth listening to because it's not so hard. Sure. It's not so rigid. When it comes to in games, okay, I see that. Definitely, there's a mile of difference between a Gears of War game and a Mega Man X title. Absolutely, they don't play the same. But there's also a world of difference between a Mega Man X title and a Turrican title. There's a world of difference between a Turrican title and a Contra title. And there's a world of difference between the run and gun of Contra and the run and gun of Metal Slug or Doom, which are all very run and gunny. There are certainly these traits that all these games have in common across genre. And I'm okay with classifying, with describing how a game goes about presenting its mechanics and its gameplay and its world to you. I'm okay with that entirely. What I'm saying is that there's an obsession with not calling games certain genres because that's technically incorrect. It's this application of academia, which is one of the topics we're going to talk about later, to something that's not really academic. It's this idea that, I wrote an article once for
Pop Culture Shock?
It wasn't Pop Culture Shock. And the reason I'm not remembering the title too well is because this site doesn't exist anymore. They went to GamesBeat Unfiltered. I'm not sure if the article's still up there. And it was about the potential of FPSs. And I wrote it partially because Stupid Movie Bob had pissed me off with how he hated FPSs for no good reason. And I kind of wrote that in a response, not directly addressed at him. It was more that, I heard him say this bullshit, and I felt the need to justify, maybe in my own mind, that FPSs were valid. And I lumped Gears of War into that. And I've had people tell me, Gears of War isn't an FPS, right? The camera's behind you. It's a third-person shooter. And I'm like, no shit. But when you play Jedi Knight, is it a combination first-person, third-person game because it's better to be in the third-person mode when you have the lightsaber? The point is, FPS represents kind of an idea that these games all kind of follow, and Mega Man X does not necessarily follow, even in its one 3D outing.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing, if someone wanted to go, you know what, Metroid Prime's kind of an FPS,
It
right?
is.
And here's the thing, yeah, it is, and it kind of isn't. I'd argue it has more in common with Zelda than with FPSs, and that the FPS presentation is more just how it gets that done. But who am I to argue that? You say it is, and hey, you're in a first-person mode, shooting shit. FPS means exactly that. Who am I to argue? I just think this obsessive subgenreing and kind of wanting to delineate based on these rules, a lot of which are very arbitrary, is an exercise in futility.
Well, and it's not one that's going away anytime soon due to the studios themselves, the publishers, making use of it as much as possible, because a few years back, if you could slap RPG onto a title, you could try and get in the people who like role-playing games. All of a sudden, everything had an RPG system in them for anything from leveling to doing skill trees. Borderlands is technically an RPG by sub-genre. Do I like it? I like the game.
The Call of Duty games count then, too.
Nope, because that's a multiplayer aspect. They're talking single player.
You still have to level up. You still have to level up and earn the right to have a certain loadout, which I despise.
In the multiplayer.
Sure, but still, is World of Warcraft not an RPG?
Actually, it is.
Yes, but it's multiplayer only. There's no single-player component to this.
Yes, but usually, and you can actually look at the different publishers, how they do their genrering. They do the genre for the core function of the game. So as a single player, their genrering is for the single player function. WoW's a good example, multiplayer only. Genrering for that. Typically, even for the Halo games, if you look at the genres that they put in, it's for the single player portion. They don't bother genrering usually for the multiplayer aspect.
And maybe that's another issue with genrering. If a game like, say, Halo Reach, which has a very significant single player and multiplayer component to it, we should be listing in its genres that it is both, single player FPS and multiplayer FPS, because that's a big component of it. We shouldn't be excluding these aspects of it. And there are multi-genre games. There's games like, fucking Bucky O'Hare on NES where you run and gun and it's like Mega Man, but the entire last level is what amounts to a shoot 'em up where you're just auto-scrolling and flying through and shooting shit.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this obsession...
They're also really careful about games like that, because if you start putting in that it is a platformer / first-person shooter in that sort of case, all of a sudden people expect more than one level to be the first-person shooter aspect.
Sure, Battletoads comes to mind. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up for the first level, and then it's not, except sometimes, and then not again. Battletoads is almost deceptive in what it paints itself to be and what it actually becomes. You need a wide variety of skills to play Battletoads. None of it is an RPG, it's all very action-based, but I mean, the game jumps between side-scrolling beat-em-up and...
Side-scrolling vehicle.
A side-scrolling vehicle and 2D platform hell very often. Like,
yeah, you have to have the hell on there.
like, I mean, it's this.
I get where you're going, saying that there's too much subgenre.
And it's
genre
hypocritical because I'm being obsessive with this genre definition and talking about how much I dislike it. I mean, I didn't want to bring up something we've talked about before, but I won't dwell on it too long. I despise how animation is its own genre.
Fuck you.
No, it's stupid.
No, it's not.
If a show is a drama, and it shouldn't be delineated between, real life drama and animated drama.
I think it does.
They're all dramas, and it shouldn't be separated between Western, quote, I hate that term, animation and anime. If I should be able to go to the fucking action adventure section of my local HMV, which barely exists anymore, and I should be able to see Legend of Korra, Kill la Kill, fucking 24, and Avengers all in the same section, because they're all the same fucking genre of thing.
You know, Rogers Video, back when they still existed, actually did do that. Their animation was not placed in a special animation section. It was actually put in with all the other videos. Do you know what people asked for? It to be taken out of those areas and put in an animation section so you could just focus on the animation. And I like that in HMVs. I go to an animation section and all the animation is right there. I'm not having to flip through the action section to find Fullmetal Alchemist.
It's all alphabetical. Go to F.
I don't want to. I want to go to an animation section, just like there's an action section. Like there's a horror section.
But animation is not a genre.
It fucking
It is not a genre. Animation is a means of delivery.
No.
Black and white is not a genre either.
No, it's not. But animation is a category. It is a genre.
It's not a genre.
Yes,
animation is a means of delivery. A show doesn't... If they decided to animate all of Kill Bill instead of the one flashback, it doesn't not become the fucking B-movie action flick it already is. It just becomes animated. It's not genre animation. It's still B-movie action flick.
No, it's an animation then.
No, fuck that. Genre is not the means of delivery.
You're wrong.
I'm not wrong.
You are.
Genre is what this thing is presenting itself as. And it's not in the visual style it took to get there.
I'm sorry, Carlos. I do not agree with you.
Okay, but I mean, you're saying you don't agree, but what argument do you have other than that it's animated, therefore it doesn't count? That's demeaning to animation, which gets cordoned off into its own little corner, while the big boys dominate the rest of the store.
Yes, a corner which is getting larger and larger and larger in places like HMV.
Oh no, not another shelf in a store that's going to be dead in a few years. Oh, please God, no.
I like the fact that animation is its own genre.
I hate it because it's not a genre.
And that's fine. You can hate it.
And in the future, when we become an enlightened species made of energy, when we go to space HMV, we won't...
We'll still have an animation
And we're looking
section
for the superior 2003 Fullmetal Alchemist. We go to F. And we find Fullmetal Alchemist in brackets superior 2003 version. And it's right beside Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, overrated piece of shit, otaku pandering bullshit version. And it's all in the action section.
No. I do not agree with you, and let's keep it at that.
Very well. Very well.
Worms, turn-based strategy.
We just went off the genre topic and you jumped right back in.
And we kind of covered that already.
Yeah, we did.
And you're wrong. Okay.
Yeah, my ass. I've actually backed up my argument here. Game design. So this is partly having to do with the stupid fucking sacks of horrible horse dung pieces of vile filth known as Gamergate supporters talking about how they want objective game reviews so that there's no quote-unquote corruption. We're not going to give them any more time than they deserve, but I am going to say this. the idea that fun is objective is a stupid one. And I thought of an article, and I hope you read through it, because it was on this document forever and ever, that Wired published about how Bungie was designing Halo 3 and taking a very academic look at where people died most often and smoothing out the difficulty curve. It was kind of an objective way to ensure people had a certain quantifiable amount of fun. And the more I think about it...
It's called quality assurance, though. Because if you don't... Most good game developers don't want you going into a massive spike or an area that's going to frustrate you, because people will stop.
I don't disagree with you. And I'm glad you brought that up. The idea that there is a QA element to it, and that, you can't just be libertarian about this and play the cards where it lies, because otherwise you get meat grinder sections. I mean, when I put out the testing videos for Brave Earth Prologue, Kyan saw this one climb, and he saw how hard it was. Even though I sucked at it, he saw that, it wasn't all me, so he kind of adjusted things a little bit, right? But at the same time, I don't want the difficulty curve in a game to be academically smooth. I want sections that are harder than others, and I want lulls in the middle that let me take a breather in between hard sections where I can do something mindless and not have to think about it.
I agree with you, but especially when I was reading that article, I mean, I really enjoyed reading it because it's not so much that you're smoothing it out you're not smoothing or making things easier for beginners. What you're doing is you're looking for points where you're running down the hallway and all of a sudden you smack your face into a wall of missiles just coming at you.
Oh, sure.
Instead, you take a couple of those missiles out and give them a little alcove they can just go to the left just to get out of range to begin with. Not... Think of Gears of War 1 with those passages where we'd have to go separate of each other.
Yeah, where you have to split up is what you want to say.
Yeah. And if either one of us fell, that was it. And they piled so many guys on you, and it got so hard in a couple of those locations, we would spend 8, 9, 10 times, even though we'd done it before, and we knew what we were doing, one stray fuck up, and we're done. That was one of those walls where there should have been... They really needed the mechanic from part 3 where you had another one of your guys with you that could res you.
You know what? I liked that about Gears of War 1. I liked that there were sections that you and I, or me alone when I played by myself, we had to just throw ourselves at over and over to learn the exact positioning of where that Theron was to take him out, to learn where we need to be to prevent, because I know the section you're thinking. You're thinking of Act 4 with the Theron in the garden. One of us had to go kill him really quick because we had the stupid incompetent missiles coming at us.
I was actually even thinking back in Chapter 2 where I'm up in the building, you're down below, and at certain times you're shooting up at my guys, I'm shooting down at your guys, because if we didn't do that, we actually got overwhelmed at certain points. And
you know what? I'm okay with that. You know what? I have fond memories of that. We were frustrated, but it was not bad frustration. Even if we might have identified it as such at the time, I am totally okay with sometimes needing to throw myself at something over and over, stepping back and going, we need to stop and come back another day. And then the next day we come back and we play it and we just kick the shit out of it because subconsciously we solved the problem.
And I agree with you. Hard sections are not bad. But for somebody who didn't have our level of shooting skill, that may have been a brick wall that ended the game for them. This is where I think that I don't agree with games like Ninja Gaiden for the Xbox 360, where it basically makes fun of you and then makes the game a cakewalk. But I do agree that if a person tries, 10, 15 times on it, that the game looks at it and says, okay, you know something? We're going to knock this down a little bit. Do you want a little bit easier for this section? I'm okay with that as long as
I think
it's optional.
I think if a designer wants to include that, okay, fine. we have that option covered where I can decide, I can tell the game, no, keep it at it, I'll keep working at it.
Yep.
And someone else can choose not to. Okay, that's fair. But if a designer wants you to conquer it, we're paying to plug into someone else's vision. Some of that has to be us learning, because that's what gaming is. It's about betterment. There's this big hoopla about gaming being about story these days, and even though I very strongly disagree with the whole Gamergate movement of making it about what games used to be and the lack of corruption, which I hate because I hate Gamergate supporters for that fucking bigoted ass movement they support. The fact of the matter remains that I am a gamer about mechanics and about what gaming is. And what gaming is, it's not necessarily about telling the best story. It's about weaving that story into something that is asking you to be better. And, some games randomly generate their content and some games don't. And for the games that don't, the purpose is you keep at it until you conquer it. There's a certain level of mastery there that should be appreciated. And I'm going to play devil's advocate to myself and admit that there's a fine balancing act between too tough and just right so a player feels like they earned something.
Yeah.
I don't like to see fighters have difficult execution barriers for no good reason. I also greatly appreciate that Kyan is going to make that haul a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was shit coming from the side that I couldn't react to, right? Like, I appreciate that there's iteration, that Bungie will look at smoothing the difficulty curve in a certain hallway. I don't disagree with them doing that. I just don't want them to hammer it too smoothly. I want some of that rough texture in there.
Yeah.
Fucking China!
Yeah, it's gotten even worse. They've gone back on their agreement to hold talks with the students.
Yep.
Saying that it was a waste of time.
Yep. Good job, China. Like, fuck it. All you had to do was just live up to your agreement. But at the same time, they were like, no, that'll mean other people in China are going to get the idea that the government just can't have this iron grip over them. Then don't have an iron grip on people! But nope, that's not how it happened. Hong Kongers? Is that a slang? It sounds wrong. Hong Kong denizens protested China breaking promises that they agreed to when Hong Kong went back under their control in 97, was it?
Mm.
And when these protesters protested, they were met with extraordinary resistance and ultimately had to back down. And there were shades of protests that are still happening in Ferguson and other places where protesters have protested peacefully, and the government and police have had a way too heavy-handed response. It sucks, but what is Hong Kong going to do? They can't do anything.
No.
Who's going to help them?
Nobody.
Even if Britain or the States wanted to, and they don't because
they can't.
They have tons of cash invested in China.
Mm-hmm.
They still couldn't.
No.
Not without significant casualties, because China would see that as an act of war. So Hong Kong's kind of fucked. Like, I mean, my advice, if you live in Hong Kong and you don't like where it's going, try your best to leave if you can and get yourself out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to say that because there's another equally valid perspective, and that's that, you're a Hong Kong citizen, this is your home, fuck that. I get that too. What do you think?
Well, one of the big problems is even if somebody wanted to leave, you still have your family back there. And they are not above doing things to your family to get you to come home.
Yep. This is true.
So unless you can get your entire family out, yeah.
Yep. It sucks. You know what else sucks? Adobe.
Now, okay. Adobe themselves
make shitty software.
No, actually they don't.
Shitty.
Overpriced software?
Overpriced, you're right. I agree with you. It's overpriced, shitty, buggy software.
I use Adobe Premiere. CC. Very good video editing software.
Okay, tell you what.
I've used Photoshop. And
Other than
Illustrator over the
Premiere,
years.
shitty, buggy software.
I've used Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator over the years, on and off. They have been very good software. I just didn't want to pay for a new version, so I went with a free one.
Sure. There are plenty of third-party Photoshop alternatives that are almost as good, if not better, than Photoshop and only cost $60.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. They do
Photoshop
like everything.
Or GIMP.
Yeah, or Pixelmator, which is just as good.
Yeah, never heard of it.
You should look into it. It's awesome. It's only $60.
I'll just use the free one, GIMP, which now has almost everything that Photoshop does.
There you go. So fuck Adobe. I agree with you. Adobe's terrible. But this is not what we're getting off track. Adobe's so terrible. We have to tangent off to how terrible Adobe is. But now, with their ebook readers, they were reading all the ebooks on your drive and sending all the information back to Adobe in clear text with no protections.
Yeah.
Now, this is a Three's Company incompetent something.
Well, and
it's so incompetent, I don't even know how to describe it.
Well, and here's the highlights of why this is so bad. Number one, most of the libraries in the States that do ebook reader loaning or ebook loaning, they have to use the Adobe software that lets them read those books and put it onto the e-reader. The software needed to do that all scans your hard drive and even sends back information on the ebooks that Adobe wasn't part of.
Mm-hmm.
That's
any ebook files, no matter where they fall.
And to add a new one that you may not have heard of, not just ebooks. Turns out to look at any docs, texts, and other formats that are not associated with Adobe.
Thanks for setting a precedent, EA. No, really, EA. Thank you.
EA fixed that years ago.
They set a precedent. And it wasn't years ago.
Yeah, like 6 months after even I was complaining about it back then I wouldn't install Origin. They removed that from Origin.
Yeah, fuck EA. Fuck Adobe. And fuck Nintendo. So, I sang the praises earlier of Smash 3DS. I'm about to shit on it here. If you gang up on one person too much, you may get booted from online matchmaking for a while. This is the dumbest possible reason you could boot someone from your online service. The whole point of Smash is to win the game. And if that is best served by a bunch of people ganging up on one person, that is A-okay. There's a whole mode for you not having to do that. It's called For Glory, and you can play one-on-one matches in Final Destination themed stages. The fact that Nintendo's following through on this bullshit fucking... It's like any time an MMO developer bans people for using quote-unquote exploits. It's like, okay, so this behavior is exploitative. How long do we have to be attacking one player before it becomes that? And then they're like, okay, here's some arbitrary number of seconds that you have to stop attacking someone. Then the best move becomes, okay, attack someone for that minus 1 second. And then does that become the new barrier? It's garbage. Garbage. Fuck that.
See, I don't give a fuck about the 3DS version of Smash Brothers.
It's going to happen on Wii U too.
But that is a completely ridiculous.
That is a Blizzard level fucking blunder.
See, there needs to be a custom matchmaking that allows you to turn that shit off.
There needs to be that never being a part of the game.
I agree.
People should not be getting banned for winning. Fuck that.
Or choosing Peach.
Or choosing Peach, exactly. Speaking of sexy ladies... Well,
okay, you got a couple notes there, right?
There's female Ghostbusters, and that's awesome. Here to tell us about why it's awesome is Dave.
I like the fact that they have decided to do a reboot, that they are going with an all-female cast. I do not mind this in the least. Kind of worried that's from the guy who did Bridesmaids, but...
I heard good things about Bridesmaids. I haven't seen it yet, though.
It wasn't good. I did not enjoy that film.
That I believe, but I still want to see it.
Fair enough.
That said, the real problem here is...
Oh,
I'm going
reactions to it?
Can I start a misandristic rant?
Oh, God.
All right. So, unless I know you personally and I'm friends with you or something, men are the worst. I hate them. And this is part of the reason why is because they hate women. You know, in general, men hate women because we're horrible. And when I say we, I don't mean we necessarily, so don't you take offense, Dave. This is announced, and stupid, privileged, sack of shit fucking dudes complain over social media about how this is gonna ruin the franchise, quote unquote, about how they're gonna boycott it because there's no way these women can capture the spirit of it. There's so much heat over this that I'm legitimately scared that the studio is going to get cold feet. Because they do. Studios, they shy away from shit that doesn't make them money. And that's why there are so few female protagonists in film. Because, unfortunately, studios are like, well, they don't make money. And then stupid fucking neck-bearded, fedora-wearing pieces of shit go like, well, you see, women main characters don't make a lot of money. So that's why men are in film. It's not a sexist thing. Because they're retards. There's so much backlash against this that I'm actually a little scared that it might affect the movie.
Probably.
And I hate the fact that there's backlash here. If you honestly feel so entitled that your favorite character can't be reimagined as a female version of itself, do me a favor, please, and just walk off a fucking cliff. Make sure it's high enough that you don't survive the fall. Oh, I mean that, too.
They make Slimer Girl, and I will boycott it.
Well, really? Really? That would do it? Slimer was pink and had a little bow?
I'm actually doing a motion of a fishing rod, just kind of fishing.
Yes, you're baiting me. Well, I'm glad you're okay with it, Dave. Because Dave, you're awesome.
Here's the
thing. When I say kill all men, I don't mean you or me, or my brother, or any of my friends, or anyone that I know and think is an awesome dude. No, I mean other men. Especially if you're like, fuck me, man, there's not Ghostbusters, just a bunch of bitches. Fucking bitches, I hate bitches. Why can't I get a date?
Here's the thing. If they turn Ghostbusters into Bridesmaids with power packs, it's going to suck. Ghostbusters was funny. It had smart humor going for it. It didn't resort to really any of the toilet humor that Bridesmaids humor kind of devolved into.
No, I mean, we totally don't have Ghostbusters scenes with Slimer! That was the whole point of the character! He is a toilet humor given anthropomorphic form.
I just hope they find the right actresses for the roles, ones that can be funny, that can act properly. And they've done a number of suggestions of ones that could do it. I've been like, hell yes. Hell yes. Hell yes.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I don't want Rosie O'Donnell to be hefted a proton pack. Look, I get where you're coming from.
Dude, we have the new Slimer.
You're the worst. You're so bad. That's also that's hilarious.
Well, Rosie O'Donnell.
No, don't misunderstand me. That's great. Well, I'm just saying.
I've got to be fair. I gotta have a white actress, and I gotta have a black actress for Slimer. So let's do Rosie O'Donnell and Oprah.
Yeah, Oprah's pretty grimy already, so to be Slimer would be such a...
Or would she be the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man?
I have no issue with Oprah empowering women. I have a lot of issues with Oprah empowering,
Idiots.
let's say, a certain level of idiocy. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. Female Ghostbusters are fine, and if you're one of those stupid fucking slimy sacks of cum who seriously think that it's going to ruin your franchise, send me a bottle of your tears, and I will drink it on the show. Your tears sustain me. This world hates women. And another good example of this is how upskirts
Did you actually read this?
I've
You didn't because it was a Sun link, did you?
No. When you put this link up, I had already read the story in other media.
Okay.
Thankfully. Because fuck Sun Media.
Sure.
Fox News North is what they are.
Whatever.
So some fucking judge says, and this was in the States, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Some judge in the States says that upskirts are not illegal because we already have so few fucking ways to protect women in our fucking continent that we just need another way for men to be grimy, icky bastards.
Basically, his ruling came down and his logic behind it was, should a woman wearing that sort of clothing or provocative attire have any
reasonable expectation of privacy?
Expectation of privacy. Oh, if they were on stairs, would a person be able to see up the skirt anyway? Oh, yeah, it wasn't down to the ankles, so no expectation of privacy.
This is so fucking ridiculous. We already blame women for their own sexual assault, and now we're doing this. It's unfucking
Something
real.
tells me it's going to get challenged, and he's going to get his ass kicked, but...
It's unfucking real how much we hate women on this planet, and this is just another example of that. This is just another fucking example of blaming women for what men do to them. It's sickening. And it sickens me more than having to read The Sun. I'm surprised they even reported it on it. I'm surprised they even showed any kind of outrage towards it, because it's The Sun. Normally they're like, fuck women, just as much as Fox News does. So I guess kudos to The Sun this one time. We're at that part, the Shitlord Saga. Now, we were originally going to have a recording of occasional guest on the show, Kiki, chewing me out for shitting on Kenshin. But let me just issue an apology. I'm sorry. The last time we did a Shitlord Saga, I kind of got caught up into comically shitting on characters I don't hate. I don't hate Batman, even though he's an idiot. I don't hate Wolverine, even though he's an idiot. And I don't hate Kenshin, even though he does a few things that could be considered of questionable intelligence. No, Kenshin should not be getting shat on for trying to redeem himself, and I got a few of the details wrong about how he left Kaoru and all that, so... For my shitting on characters that didn't deserve it, including Kenshin Homura, I, Carlos, sincerely apologize. Real talk, really sorry, and I'm going to instead shit on characters who do deserve it.
Oh, no, do not do it. Don't do it, Carlos.
Fuck Katara from Avatar The Last Airbender.
I don't agree. In a couple episodes, she jumped the shark.
A couple doesn't mean 27.
It wasn't 27.
No, it was probably more like 47.
She had a couple occasions where she jumped the shark.
A couple of occasions where she completely did the same shit she berated other characters for doing and never apologized for it. Katara is a great character. There are really people like Katara. She is super human. I don't mean superhuman, I mean she is super space human. She's a human being filled with all the flaws and emotional resonance that we expect someone like that to go through. She's a fantastic character, and I hate her so much. Because, holy fuck, I don't know what I would do if I was part of that group. She would drive me as insane as she is. Fuck Shadow from Final Fantasy VI. Almost every other character in Final Fantasy VI has a way more depressing backstory and set of hardships than this stupid, discarded afterbirth that is Shadow. But Shadow, here's his backstory, okay? He used to be a guy named Clyde. He was this thief, and he worked with a partner who he let get captured by the Empire. And then he was so racked with guilt over this terrible thing he did that he became a brooding, stupid piece of crap who left my party when I needed him. Fuck that guy. Meanwhile, Tara has been enslaved her whole life. Locke, although he's a little creepy and trying to keep his girlfriend alive with weird magic herbs, lost his amnesiac girlfriend right when she remembered who he was. Edgar and Sabin had to deal with trials and tribulations well beyond just one person with the kingdom that is entrusted to them. Umaro can never find the place to shit. I think Mog lost his whole clan. Have you seen a Moogle in the world of Ruin?
Have you seen a Moogle since Final Fantasy VI?
Yeah, there's one in 13.2. I'm surprised you're asking that question, because there's a Moogle named Mog in 13.2.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And there were a bunch of them in 9. There's fucking, like...
I thought Shadow's backstory also included the fact that he was... he lost his wife or something.
Nope. He went to Thamasa.
The girl who can draw is his daughter.
Yeah, Realm. The girl who can draw.
Yeah.
I'm surprised all their names aren't burned into your memory over this amount of time. Yeah. Oh, there's another thing. He's so sad that he betrayed his friend that he had to go leave his daughter behind and then never acknowledge her existence. This guy...
I actually blame that more on poor Squaresoft writing than anything else.
If I took a picture of the shit skids on toilets and put them side by side with Shadow, I would find more beauty in the shit skids. Shadow is this inexplicably popular character, both from the game designers and from fans of Final Fantasy VI, and he is like the worst. In battle, he's only marginally useful. Throw does tons of damage, admittedly, but so does any amount of other things any other character can do better, and they can equip better gear. Interceptor's nice to have unless you accidentally ripple the Interceptor status off of him permanently, because FF6 was really buggy.
Yep.
Shadow is just so... He commands a certain level of respect he has not earned. And his past is nowhere near as tragic as his current life, which is leaving it all behind and just becoming a sad loner, would ever lead anyone to believe. Why did he need to do this? I get that different people experience pain differently, but fucking Seely's lost everything. And fucking Gao lost everything and then had to have his father call him a weird freak child. Fuck you, Shadow.
Yeah.
I'm not apologizing for this one. Fuck you.
Speaking of losers, Apocalypse from X-Men.
I talked about this with friend of the show Marky and guest of the show Kiki. Has Apocalypse ever not sucked?
Age of Apocalypse?
Any Apocalypse. Apocalypse blows. He's a big, dumb, goofball-looking motherfucker who always gets his ass kicked. He's like the Starscream of the Marvel Universe. He's like, I can turn giant to turn my hand into a drill, for I am the Apocalypse. And then Cyclops, like, blasts him once, and he's like, ah! Falls over. In Age of Apocalypse, he took over, and how did it end? With Magneto ripping him apart. Because he sucks so bad. Easily the easiest boss in fighting game history. Like, easily the easiest boss in fighting game history. Apocalypse is just so terrible. He even looks like an idiot. He looks retarded. He kind of looks like, I'm Apocalypse, I'm strong to survive. Oh no, my plans are all falling apart. He's so fucking stupid. He's so fucking stupid. In X-Men 2 Clone Wars on Genesis, he was actually letting the phalanx infect his computer because he thought this would somehow gain something. He was letting the thing that was going to assimilate all of Earth do it. And what was his end game? I don't know, die when they assimilate him too? What a stupid sack of shit. He's been alive for like thousands of years, and he hasn't conquered one strip of land. Magneto, I think, has owned an island. Fuck you, Apocalypse.
And a space station.
Yeah! Apocalypse is so terrible. Didn't Jubilee beat him once?
Yes.
I think Jubilee has beaten Apocalypse. When Jubilee can beat you, you suck.
Technically, Jubilee has beaten Magneto once or twice.
Yeah, fuck Magneto. Nobody should be able to beat this guy.
Look,
Everybody beats Magneto. Wolverine fights Magneto. Wolverine.
yeah, but look, I'll bring in Squirrel Girl, and we're
I
good.
think Iron Man's fought Magneto now that I think about it. He's not even on our list. Fuck Magneto.
No, I won't say that, because he at least has a reason to be pissed off.
So does Apocalypse. He keeps getting his ass kicked.
Yeah, but Magneto actually went through hardships.
True.
He has a reason to be mentally scarred. And be pissed off. What is Apocalypse?
The problem with Magneto, though, is I can defeat his stupid rationale with one line.
Sure.
Okay, humans are the worst. Mutants are the future. The mom you loved was a human. Bam.
Nope.
If he continues, he's a hypocrite. Fuck him.
Of course he's a hypocrite. Mutants come from humans.
Yes. Mutants are human.
In fact, you know how they could actually mess with Magneto? Scarlet Witch? And change the laws of reality so that mutants can't have mutant kids. They have to come from humans. All of a sudden, Magneto can't get rid of humanity. Or else he ends his own kind.
I want you to write a weekly newsletter about this plan, and I want to be apprised of your progress.
Well, number one, it starts with genetic manipulation of the entire human and mutant race.
Speaking of manipulation.
Oh, goody. These guys again.
So, Dave, let's not mention them right away. Let's just talk a little bit about DC Comics.
DC Comics suck.
Agreed. But let's talk a little bit about the various universes in DC, the various canons. And let's talk about all of the in-canon problems that they have to face, all the adversities, the villains, the breakdown of social structures, the entire wiping out of whole races, okay?
Okay.
Now, can you find too many examples of any problem or hardship a character in the DC universe has had to face that is not directly tied back to how incompetent the Guardians of Oa are?
Well, seeing as the Guardians of Oa never wanted a Green Lantern from Earth because that would bring Earth to the forefront, and eventually reveal that Earth was the actual center of the universe and the birthplace of all life in the galaxy. What was the question?
The Guardians...
Oh yeah, are they?
They are so incompetent that anything involving the Guardians, you can just find how incompetent they are. In Young Justice, it's like, oh, the Reach have taken over Earth. The Guardians had a deal with the Reach, where if the Reach takes over a place, the Green Lanterns can't go there. Why? The Guardians kept the Green Lantern Corps from interfering with Earth under the yoke of the Reach. The Reach nearly blew up the Earth.
Yep.
And then in the Green Lantern animated series, which was way superior to Young Justice, and about 90% of the anime you're forcing me to watch, in Green Lantern the animated series, the entire Red Lantern Corps problem was because the Guardians of the Universe, in their infinite wisdom, decided to police the universe with robot killers named Manhunters.
Well, they weren't supposed to be killers. They just became that.
And then when they malfunctioned and killed entire races of people,
Yeah.
the Guardians buried the Manhunters and never apologized. The entire Red Lantern menace was solved when Hal Jordan, after having beaten Atrocitus, said to the Red Lanterns, "We are sorry. I apologize.
And
we will make things
reparations.
right." And then that was it. The Guardians did everything they could to avoid apologizing.
Yeah, because you can't be shown as being wrong.
That is such a clever analog for real-world politics, and it shows how incompetent the Guardians are. The Guardians are so terrible. Every problem. How many times has Superman been fucked because of something the Guardians did?
Yes.
There was a Manhunter designed to kill Superman. Why did you build this?
Well, actually, in that case, it wasn't a Manhunter built by the Guardians. That was a Manhunter built by the Manhunters.
Oh, sorry. Guardian guilt completely absolved. This isn't even talking about Appa Aliapsa and all his incompetence. Or Scar, holy fuck, Scar.
Yeah, but Appa at least was one of the few Guardians who tried to help everything.
No, that was Ganthet. Appa...
Oh, right, he was the dick.
Appa was the dick.
Yeah.
It's like, good work, Green Lantern, we're making you an honor guardian. Also, we're not going to listen to your advice on everything, even though you're always right and we're always wrong.
Yeah.
Get a job, Guardians. This next section is called How Two Fat Guys Would Do It. And we're pushing off part 3 of our last Airbender movie remake series yet again.
Yep.
For Diablo 4.
Well, we've been playing it so much here recently, I started thinking...
We've been playing Diablo 3 so much recently.
Diablo 3, yeah. Diablo in general. It got me thinking of how I would do a part 4. Especially based off of Reaper of Souls ending. And I would take...
We should probably spoil it a bit. In Reaper of Souls, well, in Diablo 3... we find out that Diablo, way in the past, masterminded this big plan that actually spanned all the Diablo games, and actually makes a lot of stuff from Diablo 1 and 2 make sense in retrospect. Basically, his plan all along was to take over the mind of the warrior who defeated him, which turned out to be Aiden, the son of King Leoric, who Diablo himself corrupted. Have Aiden go to Adria, birth a child, Leah, who would be his vessel, since Leah was technically Diablo's daughter. The Dark Wanderer then took the group of heroes from Diablo 2 on a wild goose chase to banish him and the Primevals. That's where Diablo 2 took place. Took them all the way to the Pandemonium Fortress and to defeating Diablo there, and then going to Harrogath, the homeland of the barbarians, and destroying the World Stone because Baal had corrupted it. 20 years later, Diablo's grand plan finally manifested when Leah was of age. Adria found her. Adria manipulated you into using Zoltan Kuhl's Black Soul Stone, which had all the Lords of Hell trapped in it. You defeat the last 2 that had not yet been defeated in past games, Belial and Asmodan. And then after all evils are locked in the stone, Adria gives it, awakens the shard of Diablo in Leah. Diablo reawakens in her, absorbs the stone into himself, and he is now the primeval. He is the sum of them all. With this plan, he is able to finally just portal to heaven, easily dispatch the angels like they're nothing, and go to the Crystal Arch. And the only reason your hero was able to defeat Diablo in this form is because all the Diablo 3 heroes are Nephilim, who are ancient humans who are way stronger and faster and more magically gifted than regular humans. The same Nephilim in the expansion Reaper of Souls has to stop a rogue angel, Malthael, who stole the Black Soul Stone in order to corrupt it, to make it absorb the demonic essence from all humans who are part angel and demon. You go to the realm of the dead, become one with it, and destroy Malthael. And then the ending is Tyrael talking about how the Nephilim can be a hero for good, but is still mortal and may be tempted to corruption. Will they be able to resist the corruption, or will they be their doom? We learned a lot of other things, like your 3 companions, one of which has one really obvious dangling thread, and that's Lyndon with his wife
Yeah.
killing his brother, and another dangling thread in Covetous Shen, who turned out really was Zai, and that the Jewel of Durgist was shattered and Durgist is loose. So we have a few things to tie up anyway. Okay, that description out, how would you do Diablo 4?
So I'm ignoring any potential second
Which
expansion.
we may hear about in less than a month.
Yeah. So I'm ignoring that
Okay.
and rumors of it.
Mm-hmm.
I actually fast forward 50 years.
50 years in the future.
You're just like in Diablo 3, whichever class you choose, it was your mentor who was part of the group that took out Diablo.
Okay, just like the wizard whose mentor was
Exactly.
the sorceress from Diablo 2.
Bingo. Now, I would actually have the storyline that the Nephilim, sick and tired of both heaven and hell's bullshit, we basically remanufacture smaller individual versions of Zoltan Kuhl's Black Soulstone.
Now, I should point out that since in the fight with Malthael, he absorbed the Black Soulstone into himself, effectively having all those powers in him. Since you kill him, as Tyrael says, Diablo is free.
All of them are free.
Tyrael specifically said Diablo. It's not known if the evils are still bound to him or not.
Something tells me it's re-shattered.
Sure, but continue.
In my version, you have all the Lords of Hell are free.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
In this case, they're down to two. We hold hell and we hold heaven. The Nephilim, Nephilim started popping up all over the world as powerful as we had become. With training and with said corruption that Tyrael was worried about, mankind basically said enough was enough. We're tired of being part of your war. You're going to be our bitches now. And mankind united to seal their fucking asses permanently.
So angels and demons have all been sealed at this point?
At this point, the only ones who are left are Diablo still free, and whoever that general of heaven was, the dickhead. Imperius. Those two are the only angels still around.
What about Tyrael?
Tyrael's dead. He passed away.
He was mortal.
In fact, it wasn't mankind who killed him. He died of old age.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be an actual big part of this, is he would actually die, which would set you up to realize there had to be a balance.
Mm-hmm.
I'd actually have it that the world's starting to actually break down a little bit. Parts of different continents are literally shattering and disappearing. Not sinking into the water, literally disappearing, almost Drenorish.
So Sanctuary is becoming undone.
Yes, because you don't have the balance anymore. There would actually be an area called the Dome, where the sealed angels and demons, their individual stones, would be used to make constellations of the sky. Because you can't kill them. Because you kill them, they just come back in 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Well, Adria used to think you could, but maybe she was lying about it.
Well, throughout all the different conversations that you hear about the war between angels and demons, they made it very clear that you can kill an angel or kill a demon, but they're just going to come back eventually.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even a cycle of rebirth where there's somebody else. They come back as themselves.
Yeah, and it all started with Anu and Tethamat. And
exactly.
They split up and they couldn't even really die because they just broke up.
Humanity came to the conclusion very early that there's no point in killing the fuckers. Seal their asses and we win. We become in charge of our own destinies. Enough is enough.
Well, what about Tyrael? He's dead.
That's where I would kind of play with what's going on, because you're right. Tyrael's dead, but he became mortal. He gave up his angelic presence. So you would have a wanderer pop up who would be a reincarnation. But it wouldn't be Tyrael. Tyrael's gone. And this wanderer would basically lead you along trying to wipe out some of the Nephilim, which are now starting to go back and forth between their demonic and their heavenly selves, and civil wars going on. So you'd still have angels and demons, but they're human. They're mortal. And realizing that the balance was all important, and finally, in the end, freeing them. So that's how I do a Diablo 4 as far as how things would start up and go along.
Who's the final boss?
Final boss would be immortal. I just don't have a name for the person. It would be whoever was the leader of the Nephilim army.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. It introduces an outside element that, because obviously that's where Diablo's going to go next. An expansion to Diablo 3 notwithstanding. So yeah, I think it's a cool idea.
And an expansion to that game could have you rebuilding the World Stone to seal.
Sure. Would your player characters be Nephilim or human?
Nephilim.
Okay. They kind of have to be, right?
They'd have to be, as well as one of the things to my game would be that humanity, those who weren't Nephilim, were made second and third class citizens and are largely dying off due to neglect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good idea. I like it. How I would do a Diablo 4, they would be similar. It would be set in the future, but probably far in the future. Because I want to introduce some steampunk stuff to this. Maybe even cyberpunk. Maybe go even farther into the future and have high technology, but some level of excuse that lets you also use guns instead of, as well as swords and whatnot, right? What I would like to do is, I would like to do a story where it's like Diablo was expected to return at any point, but he never came. The threat of Diablo just never happened. Tyrael died off. The Nephilim lived long, happy lives, and people became like how Zoltan Kuhl described how he could help all men become Nephilim. More Nephilim are being born, and more people are awakening to becoming Nephilim, and eventually, through sheer statistics, the whole planet's going to be Nephilim again. But far in the future, the remnants of demons are dying off, and the remnants of angels are even dying off, and their angelic essences are not returning. The idea being that what is actually happening behind the scenes that you only learn in that game's Act 4 is that Diablo is in fact alive, and when he was taken into Malthael, as Adria said, Diablo always finds a way, and he's always got a plan, and he probably planned for his defeat by the Nephilim, and maybe even potentially Malthael being corrupted to the point that he would take a demon inside him. Diablo would have masterminded whatever the threat is to the world, and the threat would not be his usual plan, because Diablo is different than he was. He has angels within him now. That means he is part demon and part angel. He is more than either. He is not unlike the Nephilim, who are the same, but he is not mortal. He is still some kind of astral creature, but his form is definitely more humanoid. And Diablo's entire reason for being is to unmake all but himself, because he doesn't want to simply destroy the light anymore. With angelic essence as part of him, he sees the pointlessness of the eternal conflict and of simply being fear and terror for terror's sake, because that's what he was before. He believes now that being more than what he was is not just raw strength, it is to become a perfect being,
so
a being of perfection.
Terror, but also
Wisdom. And everything else he's absorbed over time, and Imperius is his last holdout. The aspect of valor still hasn't been quite absorbed into this spiritual thing that is the Black Soul Stone turned into Diablo, basically. And Diablo wants to destroy all but him, because he now wishes to rule over creation. He wishes to design creation, all of it in his own image. And that means destroying angels and demons, all save for himself, and eventually conquering all. And that's the ultimate villain of the game, is the agents of Diablo, who are Nephilim themselves, who believe in his mission, who are attempting to conquer. It's not about the end of days coming, as it was in Diablo 3 or even 2, or even 1 for that matter. It's about preventing this being from just becoming the one who rules all, because none could stop him at that point. He would be the Lord of creation to do with creation as he wills. And even if he desired a benevolent creation, they would still be all trapped in a cage. And defeating Diablo in this form would destroy all angels and demons for good and disperse them throughout the cosmos, and all that remains are beings who are both and neither. And the expansion to that would be beings from outside of their universe invading them, because what the fuck else are you going to do?
The Zerg.
Why not? It wouldn't be exactly the Zerg, but it would be maybe they were watching this universe, and now that all angels and demons are finally gone, they can invade. That could even be a Diablo 5, like. But I want to see at least steampunk. At least something to give me an excuse to be able to, have the Demon Hunter played with the idea a little. I wanted to go further than that even. But that would be just a backstory. We didn't talk much about mechanics. And mechanically, more of Diablo 3 would be fine with me. I would like to see a melee version of the Necromancer. Maybe it's of the same order, but they're a more melee-oriented subsect of them, where they do stuff with blood golems and maybe blood magic, but they're more melee-oriented class.
Yeah.
I would like to see the Druid make a return as a class.
Oh, yes.
And I would like to see interesting skill-based ways that they turn into werewolves and bears and maybe other creatures, too. I would like to see a throwback maybe to the original Diablo classes, Warrior, Rogue, and Sorcerer, although we've seen variants of all 3 throughout the game series.
Yeah, I don't know if you need the Rogue back, to be honest. Bring back the Amazon from Part 2.
I'd like some kind of engineer class, steampunk or cyberpunk, a character who predominantly just works with technology. Maybe they set down turrets, maybe their main weapon of attack is guns, and maybe they have mechanical familiars, right?
Yeah.
Maybe there can be a character class that has no set class, but can learn other skills up to a limit, and is kind of your free-for-all class. But otherwise, more of Diablo 3, please.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Well, Diablo 3 with
Reaper of Souls, Ultimate Evil Edition on console.
Yeah. Not just Diablo
version.
3, because that one, it wasn't until Reaper of Souls that fixed a whole bunch of stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, that's how I do it.
Excellent. All right. Parting thoughts. Never underestimate Diablo. He will find a way to return. He always has.
Until you seal his ass in something and launch into space.
Indeed. Folks, our website is twofatguystalk.com. You should also catch our other show, the Carlos and Dave Anime Rave, at carlosanddaveanimerave.com. You can find us at Twitter at twofatguystalk. You can find our individual Twitter accounts at handsomefatman for me and at the Dude Hack for Dave. We are on iTunes. Search for Two Fat Guys Talk. Dave, I think we're good. Let's get the hell out of here.
Carlos, I think we're good too.
All right.
Time for more bad.
Okay. Deal. Bye, folks.